to later post this on our YouTube page, so you can go back and watch anytime. So like I said, welcome to Ursuline College Presents College Prep Toolkit. This week we are talking about the choice is yours, so finding the right fit when it comes to choosing your college. What kind of college experience is right for you, and going through and making sure that as you are, making these choices, making sure you know what you're looking for and, to best guide you. So jumping in. So not all schools are the same. So there's a lot of differences when it comes to the different schools that are available to you. So there's 2-year institutions and there's 4-year institutions. Your 2-year institutions are your trade schools and your community colleges, whereas your 4-year institutions are your private institutions and your public institutions. And then no matter what school you're looking at, they are all sorts of different sizes. So there's large schools, medium schools, and small schools. So to go into the difference between your 2-year and your 4-year schools, there's quite a few differences between the two. So your 2-year schools are those community colleges and trade schools, whereas those 4-year colleges are your public and private. Your 2-year schools typically result in a associate's degree or job certification, and that's always upon completion. And then your 4-year institutions result in bachelor's degrees. And that again is based on your completion of all of the credits and classes that you need. Your 2-year colleges are also most common for job-specific training. So not every job requires a 4-year degree. Many do require the 2-year programs, whether that be at a trade school or the community colleges. So some examples of that, dental hygienist, that is a 2-year program. If you want to be a welder, an electrician, those are all of those types. Whereas your 4-year institutions look at different things, like if you want to be a teacher, if you want to go into a certain sector of business and things like that. 2-year colleges, general education courses are also offered. So oftentimes when you're looking to do your college credit plus classes, or if you're looking just to do your general education courses to then later transfer to a 4-year, you can do that at community colleges. Many students do that. Generally, you can save a little bit of money that way, which is always really nice. And then your 4-year colleges, your general education classes are required as a part of your studies. So you'll be looking to take those classes in line with classes that pertain to your major. So to dive deeper into the 2-year college types, you have community colleges and trade schools. So your community colleges offer job-specific training and those general education courses that can be later transferred, whereas your trade schools always offer job-specific training with just a few general education courses sprinkled in. So if you're looking to be in a job that requires a strong math foundation, you might have to take a math course or two along with that. And also your trade schools are vocational, technical, or trade. Just kind of depends on the school, what they offer. So they do go by a few different names. For community colleges, for the job-specific training, you'll still take general education courses. They do more of a rounded out approach to education. So you'll take, probably an English, a math, maybe psychology, just a few to broaden your knowledge. Whereas your trade schools, it's always just job-specific training, like I said. So community colleges result in that associate's degree upon completion, and trade schools result in the certification for that desired job. And then community colleges take a minimum of 2 full years, whereas trade schools, you can usually get in and out in just under 2 years. And then to talk about the 4-year institutions, you have public versus private. There are a lot of differences between public and private schools, mostly related to size and cost. So at your public schools, the sticker price is generally less, so that price that you see on the website, whereas private schools, they are generally higher. However, the difference then boils down to scholarships. So your public institutions award less money in terms of scholarships, whereas your private schools can offer more. So a perfect example, when I was looking at colleges, I looked at a public school and a private school. Generally, when you are looking at your scholarship amounts that they award based on academics, it is based on GPA and or test scores. So same GPA, same test score that I had, the public institution I was looking at only gave me $2,000, whereas the private school gave me $11,000. Now the sticker price between the two, the private school was twice as much as the public school, but even then when you're looking at the scholarship amounts, if a public school is $20,000 and a private school is $40,000, that $2,000 scholarship should have just been $4,000 at the private school if it was proportioned that way. However, the private school was able to offer me 5.5 times that scholarship amount. So always wait for those financial aid packages and don't write off a private school just because of a high sticker price. Public schools also tend to be on the larger side. So those are your big schools that have the big class sizes, whereas your private schools are generally the smaller to medium-sized schools. So your class sizes are smaller. It's more of a hands-on approach to your learning and things like that. Public schools can offer you more academic programs. So generally there is, more majors than you could ever, pick from, know that they existed, anything of that sort. Whereas private schools offer fewer programs, but they're generally more generalized in that area. So you're able to, have a broader knowledge and education base of those programs. And then in terms of tuition, public schools, you have your in-state and out-of-state costs. So if you go to a public school within your state, it'll be cheaper than if you go to a school outside of it. Whereas private schools, they are generally one flat tuition cost. So it doesn't matter, what state you're from, if you're a local student, if you're, international, whatever it may be, the tuition cost is the tuition cost. Now to dive into more of the sizes. So, these 4-year institutions and your 2-year institutions come in all sorts of different sizes. So to start off with large schools are typically your schools that are, 15,000 students or more. And that's really a lot if you're thinking about, your high school that you go to currently. High schools are generally much, much smaller. When you're at a large school, it's more of that little fish in a big pond mentality. You're not going to know everybody. Everybody kind of just like knows the people that are probably like in, the same major, in the same year as them. You might know people that you're in the same club with or athletic team, but generally your social circle remains within your interests. Those are the people you know. Your large schools also offer lecture style classes, and those are the more common ones, especially for your general education courses. So, lecture style classes are those auditorium settings of anywhere from 100 to 400 students, all learning the same thing, one professor down at the front. Your professor, may never really get to know you unless, you're someone who goes to the office hours or things like that. But you can really kind of fly under the radar at the large schools in classes. They do offer a wide variety of opportunities though, and that is both academically and socially. So anything, that's more of a resume builder, there's a lot more clubs, a lot more of these social settings and things to do. However, you got to really pay attention into, what you're doing. Don't let those large variety of opportunities really, distract you from your education, because that is very easy to happen in this case. When schools have, a program every single night, maybe sometimes at lunchtime, in the afternoon, and at night, and you want to attend all of them, you really kind of have to be strict with yourself and be like, no, like I need tonight to study. I have to skip this event. So it's very easy to get lost in that setting. But there is that, anonymity factor where, you might be able to just fly under the radar, have a few friends that you met in your residence hall that you really click with, and that's about the extent. When it comes to your medium schools are often thought about as the, Goldilocks and the Three Bears kind of situation. Why wouldn't the medium school be the perfect fit? It has a little bit of the small school stuff, a little bit of the large school stuff. However, if you think about it, like I said, with the large schools, these schools are still going to be larger than your high school. So I myself went to a pretty large high school, but that high school, we only had about 1,600 students that attended, which was still much smaller than a medium school setting. So these schools are big enough to, allow for, large academic variety, different opportunities in terms of clubs and things like that. But they're also small enough where you can find friends easily, especially, within your major, within different clubs that you're in and things like that. So you'll know more people, but still not everybody. Your small schools are going to be more in line size-wise with high schools. So it's more of that big fish, little pond mentality. So if you, want to make a name for yourself, you want people to know who you are, small schools may be your best bet. I myself went to a small school because my whole mentality was, I want people to know me. I want, to be able to have leadership opportunities and be able to, basically live my best life in college was my whole mentality. And for me, that was the small school setting. Small schools are also way more into hands-on learning. So even your general education courses are going to be about 40 students or less, and then get even more specialized the further into your major you go. So for example, Ursuline is a small school. We have about 1,100 students on our campus, and your general education courses with us are going to be maybe 25 students or less. Once you get into your major, it might be you and 5 other students in a classroom. So you'll really get to know your professor. They will really get to know you. They'll know your name. They'll know, your life story if you want to share it and things like that. So, there is the pluses to that too, because those professors are going to be able to write you recommendation letters that are genuine for, job opportunities or, graduate school, doctoral programs, whichever route you go post-grad. So there are also more specialized opportunities at small schools since, generally they don't offer as much as your large schools, but what they do very well. So their programs are all very well thought out and really cater to the student body's needs and wants. So also your small schools, you will maybe not know every single person, but you'll know most people. You'll recognize the people you're passing in between classes. You may never know their name, but you at least know like, oh yeah, that's the girl I used to pass on the way to class Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays my first semester or something like that. There's also a lot of community camaraderie as well, and that goes into, the clubs and the athletics. So, everyone may get together from your residence hall floor and be like, oh, Sarah has a soccer game, let's all go, and things like that. So, there is that kind of community spirit aspect to it. All right, so now we talked about all the different school opportunities. So, your 2-year, your 4-year, community college, trade school, private, public, you've kind of narrowed it down. Let's say you want to go to a small private school. Here's some other things to consider. What's important to you outside of the academics? You found a school that has your program, you found a list of them maybe, but here's some other things to consider. Location. Do you want to stay close to home? Do you only want to look at schools that are within a 2-hour radius, 4-hour, 6-hour, whatever it may be? Maybe you want to get as far away from here as possible. That's up to you. And that's something to definitely think about. And then also cost. So, sometimes the cheapest school is not necessarily the best option for you. So, weigh that cost. School, your education is an investment in you. So, you don't want to cheap out on something when you're investing it in yourself. Maybe, you are between 2 schools and one's cheaper, but you felt more at home at the other. Go to the one that you feel more at home at. You're going to find that you're going to, click with people more in that, case and things like that. Are you an athlete? Are athletics important to you? Do you want to compete at the collegiate level? Have you started getting in contact with coaches? What does that look like? Do you want to go to a school with, a really big, athletic presence? Do you want to go to a school that, is maybe in the Big Ten conference and you really want to experience that kind of football game, day mentality? So, athletics kind of go both ways if you're an athlete or if you're just really into attending games and things like that. Are you interested in Greek life? Did your mom, sister, and grandma all, joined the same sorority and now you want to do that too. Look into the schools, make sure they have Greek life if that's important to you. Is there off-campus housing? Not every college has, walkable off-campus housing. So if your dream is to later rent a house your junior and senior year with your best friends, check into that. Make sure there's rental properties and those opportunities available. And then when it comes to, some other things, leadership opportunities, social justice opportunities, volunteer opportunities, anything that you felt was important to you in high school, you can carry that into college. So if you were, really into the volunteer program and you want to continue volunteering, I definitely encourage you to look at the student activities websites, what's there to offer in terms of that, those clubs, social settings, things like that. And then another important thing to students is the opportunity to study abroad. Now, study abroad means a few different things. So for Ursuline, for example, we do 1-week trips that are typically a part of your major. So we have a fall break and a spring break where students can opt to go on these trips. For example, nursing and fashion one year went together. They went to Africa to this one village. The nursing students provided medical treatment and the fashion students taught those in the village how to sew. Our art therapy program always goes somewhere, generally, somewhere. South America was one of the more recent ones. And, so there's those opportunities available at the Ursuline level. However, some schools offer you the opportunity to be able to transfer to another college in another country for a semester. So, if that's something that piques your interest, look into that, see if the school offers it. So there is a lot to consider here. There's a whole list right in front of you, and this is really truly just the tip of the iceberg. You have to truly think, what academic program am I interested in? Am I interested in becoming a teacher? Okay, let's look at colleges that offer education programs. All right, I also want to be an athlete and I value social justice opportunities. Do the schools provide that for me? So, take your big list of all your schools and start narrowing it down based on the things that are important to you. So, like I said, a lot to consider, but don't panic. What do you mean don't panic? I know it sounds like a lot, but here's a nice little checklist that you guys can look at and, see, where to start. So pick a few programs of interest. First and foremost, your college needs to have the major you're interested in. So if you want to be a nurse and you're looking at schools that don't offer nursing programs, you're not going to be able to be a nurse after going there. So, pick your schools that have your programs of interest and then do your research. Go on the school's websites. I'm always an advocate for checking out the social media because it gives you more of the little snippets, little inside look into the college and some more digestible material. Websites are a great resource. However, they're typically very heavy with the information. So, maybe start with social media, go to the websites, vice versa. It's really up to you. So once you pick your programs, you do your research, you narrow down your list to maybe 5 schools you're interested in going and visiting. Go and visit your schools. It is so important to see the school in person. Seeing the campus, touring, all of that kind of stuff really gives you the most inside look into the school. Pay attention to how the students interact with each other. Pay attention to the things the tour guide's saying. Ask the tour guide questions. Ask, who's your favorite professor? What was your favorite class? What are some cool things to do off campus? Use that tour guide to, dive deeper into your research questions. So once you visit your schools, you can then narrow down your list. So based on those programs and extracurriculars, what school you felt the most at home at, you can even rank them. You visit 5 schools, make a list 1 through 5. Really kind of try to remember what those schools were like. We always encourage families on tour, take pictures if you need to, take notes, whatever you need to remember what you saw on your tour. So make your list, apply to your schools. You can apply either on the school's website, or if the school is a part of the common application, you can apply that way. And then once you apply, you can submit your FAFSA. And that's typically, if it's necessary, maybe your community college since they are on the cheaper side, you don't necessarily need to submit that FAFSA, but it's always good to have that submitted to kind of see what you would get in terms of, you know, loan amounts, any sort of institutional aid and things of that nature. Revisit your schools if you need to. So, you know, if you picked, you know, you applied to 5, you got into 4, and you really don't know what to do with those 4 that you know that, you know, you still want to go to, revisit. In the spring, so many colleges offer, you know, admitted student events. So things that are specific to you, specific to your major, maybe they have a admitted student nursing day and you can go and check out, you know, and learn more and things of that nature. So when it comes down to it, pick your dream school based on your major, make sure they have your program, your interests outside of the classroom, the cost/return on investment. So typically, even though a school may cost a little bit more, that return on investment could be more because you may get a job and that job pays a little bit higher because you have, you know, a degree from that institution. There is a little bit of that. So just pay attention to what those outcomes are. And then your location preference as well. If you're not comfortable going away from home, pick a school close to home. You know, your comfort is what is most important. And most importantly, do stay connected with us as we go through the rest of this series. So next week, we'll have another one of our counselors. I believe I don't know actually who it is. So you guys will have to stay tuned and find out. The topic is about writing your essay, so summarizing you in 500 words or less. And those essays are very important to the college application process. So if you have any questions for me, you can either drop them in the chat, or if you'd like to, here's my contact information, my email, and then you can call or text my cell phone at any time. And like I said, I'm a big advocate of checking out social media, so please be sure to follow us or at least check out our social media. Definitely Instagram, and then our YouTube has a lot of really great content on it. So I will hang on for a couple minutes and see if there's any questions in the chat. And then if not, I hope you guys all have a really great weekend.